I think this is the perfect camera for landscape photographers. What is this? There's a weird fly on my camera. I've never seen this one. Hey! Sorry!
Hi guys, welcome back to another video. I'm a new lens. Sigma just announced me. I'm a 16 to 28mm wide angle lens, 2.8 for the L mount. 72mm filter thread, yeah. So let me explain why I have this lens here and why I'm doing this video. Because to be honest, I didn't agree to make this video first because I don't have an L mount camera. It doesn't make sense to me to talk about a lens that I can test. And also I didn't think this would be an interesting lens to show to my community. And I always try to make videos of things that I'm interested in. But I still agreed to do it because I remembered that they have this camera, it's called the FP or FPL. It's a very small camera, full frame camera. It's this one here, which I happen to have. And it also happened to have a Leica lens on it because this is the type of camera that I'm interested in. You know, small cameras for street photography or documentary style photography. So I told them, you know, if you send me the FPL to test, you know, I might be able to do a little video where I talk about this camera. And I knew that some people I know that are using Leica M lenses adapted to this FPL or FP. And it is basically the mini Leica M11, right? 60 megapixels. So we will see how this performs. I'm interested to test this setup. Not so much this lens, to be honest, but I'm also going to use this for some snapshots. So I'm sorry for everyone who tuned into this video to learn more about this lens. I'm definitely going to show you some images. We will zoom in and look at the sharpness and corner sharpness and all of that. But let me tell you up front here, this is more like a first impression of this camera here, and not so much this lens. And up until today, I actually thought of sending this back to Sigma and just don't do the video. But then I did a poll on Instagram asking my followers if they want to see this camera and, you know, Leica M lenses on this camera. And then 93% of you said, yes, we want to see it. Only 7% said, no, we don't want to see it. So that was interesting. So it seems like a lot of people are interested in this camera in combination with these small lenses. But if you are the 93%, then you also have to check out this lens. So we are in the city, we just had brunch. I had brunch with my friend Maya, who's filming me right now, and Bello, who just went home. And I think I forgot to mention this, but this video is not sponsored by Sigma. I mean, they sent me this camera and the new lens to try out, but I don't need to do this video. They don't pay me to do this video. They don't get to see it. I don't get to keep this gear. But I'm making this video because I'm interested in this setup here for street photography. And yeah, so far I took a few snapshots, not much. It is okay. Maybe we should talk about this camera a little bit first. This feels like a fat GR. I already know that this is not really ideal. First of all, it has an electronical shutter, so no mechanical shutter, which means you get like heavy rolling shutter. It's an effect where trees and everything that's vertical in your frame it's starting to bend and distort. So I mean, we took some photos earlier that were kind of fun, so maybe you can use that as an artistic effect. But yeah, I would say this camera is probably better suited for still subjects, architecture. I actually think this is a very good landscape camera. Oh yeah, it is. And that's probably why you should stop talking about street photography and talk about the FPL for landscape photography, which is a much better fit for this camera. But no, Sammy has to try a camera that isn't made for street photography. And then he complains that the weather was bad. Oh, I got bad shots and, I'd rather spend time with my friends drinking bubble tea. And by he, I mean me. But you will see. Oh, that rhymed. So, I don't know, let's just try it out and I will show you some images and we will talk a little bit more about this setup. Okay, so here's where I have to step in. Please excuse these very unexciting images. My friends and I, we haven't seen each other in a while, so we decided to brunch and hang out and not take too many photos. But I'm really impressed how well the Leica Summron 35 performs. There's a slight red color tint, but I kind of like that. And there's a little bit of a color shift in the corners of the frame, but it's not that bad. I've seen far worse on other cameras. And the images are very, very sharp, especially in the center of the frame. 60 megapixels is a little overkill for street, but hey, why not? Okay, let's talk about this lens here, which should be the star of this video, but because I'm personally not so interested in it, it will only get 1 or 2 minutes of screen time. So this is the new 16 to 28 millimeter zoom lens, 2.8. And yeah, what can I say? Let me give you my initial impression. Build quality, it feels very good. It's plastic, it feels like plastic, but it has a rubber ring. To be honest here, if I would do landscape photography or event photography and I would own a Panasonic S5 or S1 or Leica SL, this would probably be my choice for a wide-angle zoom lens. I just don't need a wide-angle zoom lens personally. But so the benefits of buying this instead of a native lens is probably the size, because it's very compact. I mean, compared to this small camera, it looks big. But I remember I was using a Canon 15 to 40 L lens in the past. That one is much bigger, heavier, wider. And also what I really like about this lens is that it doesn't move. So when you zoom, it's all internal. It has an AF, MF switch, which is useful. I have to say the focusing ring feels a little cheap. It's probably the cheapest feeling bit of this lens, but the rest feels very solid. Lens hood. I mean, what can I say? I think it's also weather sealed because it has here a rubber gasket. I will show you some images. I think that's more interesting than talking about this lens. So Sigma told me the firmware is not final, but also this camera, the FPL, is not the fastest autofocus camera. Autofocus tracking is not that reliable, in my opinion, in my experience. If you're using a different L mount camera, you know, the performance will be probably much different from my experience. But it is fast. Yeah, it is fast, but it's not blazing fast. Okay, so Maya and I, we are taking a break again. We are here at what's this place, Joy NT, going to drink some bubble tea. And what can I say? Today was not a successful day. It is raining. It is so hectic in the city, and this setup is really not suitable for quick street photography. Obviously because it has no mechanical shutter, but also because Elmar gave me a super stiff lens. This lens is sponsored by Elmar, by the way. He sent me this lens to try out. Thank you, Elmar. But he didn't give me a proper functioning lens because this focus tab is super stiff, which also makes it harder for street snapping. Thanks, Elmar. I still appreciate it, but I need to take my time. The screen, oh yeah, the screen is way too dim. My GRs are a little brighter, so this screen is very hard to see. There is a viewfinder, which I also have, but I didn't show you yet. But it makes the camera much bigger. Now we attach the viewfinder and the grip. Oh yeah, this is not a compact camera anymore. And you can tilt the viewfinder up. Okay, so the viewfinder is not bad. It's pretty big. It reminds me of my Q2. The Q2 feels similarly big. And then you have to attach these strap connectors again onto the viewfinder, so it's a little cumbersome switching between viewfinder and LCD. I have to say I missed my GR, I missed autofocus, and yeah, maybe I need more time with this camera. But let me drink my bubble tea for the next 10 minutes that I have, and let Maya drink her bubble tea so she can also enjoy a little bit of free time. And then I see you tomorrow in my garden. Yeah! Okay, we are back home, and let's talk about who this camera is for. I think this is the perfect camera for landscape photographers. What is this? There's a weird fly on my camera. I've never seen this one. Hey! Sorry. I'm starting to feel itchy here. So yeah, let's talk about this camera and who is it for. I think it's the perfect camera for someone who wants to travel light and does a lot of landscape photography. For example, if I would go on a hike on a mountain and I wanted to capture detailed images, high resolution, then this would be my easy choice, because you get a tiny body, full frame sensor, 60 megapixels with very good dynamic range. You can pull a lot of details out of the shadows and highlights. The colors are decent as well. Sometimes I found the colors to be a little bit oversaturated and a little bit unnatural looking, but the raw files are very flexible, so you can do a lot with the files. Skin tones I don't like so much. I think other cameras do it a little bit better. Yeah, but for landscapes, this is a very good option. Maybe even combined with this 16 to 28 millimeter lens, because it is very versatile. It is very sharp across the frame and not so heavy. So yeah, that would be my pick for landscape. Not for street, but for landscape. Alright guys, I think it's time to give you my final verdict on the Sigma FPL and this lens here, the 16 to 28. Maybe let's start with the lens because it will be shorter. So first of all, this is a very solid performing lens. I don't have much negative things to say about it. The only thing I can't really test and tell you is how the autofocus performs. I'm sure it performs much better on a Sony body or Panasonic than on the Sigma FPL, which has, you know, good single AF, but not so good AFC. There's not much to say other than this is a very solid option. It's light, it's well made, gives you great images even on a 60 megapixel sensor, so that is fantastic. Price, I'm sure it will be €8.99 euros. So I looked up Sony lenses, wide angle, like 16 to 35 F2.8, and I think it's like 1500, so there's that. Now let's talk about my experience using the Sigma FPL with these Leica lenses adapted onto it. First of all, how do I like the look of this camera, because this is also important, you know. I really like it. I like the compact size, I like how it feels. It has this very solid, it feels like a solid brick with buttons. It is a sexy looking camera. I think it looks beautiful with Leica lenses. But there are a few downsides, a lot of downsides actually. But let me talk a little bit more about the positives. So menu focusing, a very enjoyable experience. You get focus peaking, and also when you press the middle button here on the wheel, it punches in. You can also set the camera up that it will do it automatically. So focusing is very easy. And because it's a full frame camera, and when you use full frame lenses like the Leica M lenses,
They have distance scales and numbers here, and you can accurately use them for zone focusing and trust that the distances are correct. If you adapt Leica lenses onto an APS-C camera, like a Fuji X Pro, for example, then you always have to, first of all, it's not really accurate most of the time. And then, you know, the depth of field is different and you have to do all kinds of calculations. So it's nice to have a native full frame lens on a full frame camera. So in theory, this should be a great camera if you're coming from a Leica or from a film camera and you're used to using zone focusing. But the big downside is unfortunately that electronic shutter. So it doesn't really fit my style of shooting. I like to freeze action and be very reactive. That's why I use these little Ricoh GRs, because you know they have snap focus and they have a mechanical shutter or leaf shutter, I think. I think this can still be a good option for street portraits or portraits in general. This could be a good camera in a studio, or if you use very fast glass and want to take, you know, beautiful portraits outdoors with that ISO 6. This is probably a great camera for portraits, I think. I haven't tried it for portraits, but I think because you have to slow down a little bit, it is a good option, and it is small. I have another suggestion here for the next FP. Please put a hot shoe on top, because if I could at least attach an optical viewfinder, then this whole experience would be a little bit better. Of course, we still have that electronic shutter because the EVF accessory is just too big and it's a little, you know, slow and cumbersome to attach it and detach it. So having a little hot shoe here and then maybe create a viewfinder, even an electronic viewfinder that sits on top of the camera, that would be good. And then, yeah, we definitely need a flip-up screen. And then I think Sigma would have a very capable and great option, and I'm sure a lot of people would buy this camera if it had these features. So the price of a Sigma FPL at this moment here in Europe is 2,299 euros, and the viewfinder costs 600 something. And that is a lot of money for a camera that basically does a few things very well, like image quality and compactness, but the rest, like the usability, is a little awkward. I don't like the button layout too much. And when I was out shooting on the street, holding this camera one-handed, there's really nothing to grip. And I often found myself touching the buttons by accident. So I know there's a little grip that you can attach that makes the camera feel better. But for 2,000 euro, I would probably look for something else. You know, you could get, if you want that manual focus Leica experience on a digital camera, you could get an Leica SL, or, I mean, there are not many other options, but I can't really recommend this camera unless you really know what you're going to use it for. Does look nice though. So that is it for today. I will end this video here. I hope you got some value out of this video. I know this was a little rushed and it was more like a first impression. I would have loved to test this camera a little bit more, but I can already see this camera and I, we're not going to become good friends. But if you are an FP user, let me know in the comment section how you use your FP. And if you never tried an FP, would you try one, or do you think this is too much of a niche camera? So thanks for watching. I see you in the next video. And thank you Sigma Germany for letting me play with this camera and this new lens. Check them out if you like what they're doing. And I see you in the next video. Bye bye.